Hello everybody, my name is David Waldron and I am joined today by Magnus from Navigraph. We're going to sit down, take a few questions. If you in the audience have any questions, be sure to post them in the Twitch chat and we will get to those questions at the end of the interview. So Magnus, how was your flight in? It's been a few days.
It's been a few days. The flight was all right. We were held up in Chicago for a little while. Our luggage continued, whereas we did not, so we arrived pretty late. Jet lag is starting to dissipate a little bit. So all in all, we're in good shape.
All right, so the expo just kicked off a couple of hours ago. What has the public reception of what you're showing off today been like just in these couple of hours?
Oh, you mean the stampede that came through the door here?
Yeah.
That was great. That was great. It's always such a kick to come to conferences like FSExpo. We just released our new Navigraph Charts, and the feedback from that has been awesome. Last year over in Vegas, we had, the product was in existence, but it wasn't released yet. And we gathered a lot of feedback at that event, which we now incorporated. And I think we got it right. The positive remarks that we're getting seems like we nailed it actually. So we're feeling very good about it.
Awesome. So for those who might not be familiar with Navigraph and particularly your role within Navigraph, could you explain what Navigraph does and what your role is within Navigraph?
Sure. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Navigraph. So basically what I do is a lot of janitorial functions. I make sure that there's toilet paper in the office and stuff like that. No, I'm herding the cats that we lovingly call the developers. We have two products. We have Charts, which is a software which contains en route charts and approach plates. So if you wanted to plan a flight, you could look at airport diagrams, but you can also look at the waypoints between those airports. And the secondary product there is the FMS Data Manager, which is a software that runs like a client. You download it to your flight simulator computer. It scans your computer and finds the add-ons that you have installed, and we currently support 120 different add-on formats. So if you needed to update the FMC of your PMDD aircraft, for instance, you would run the FMS Data Manager at least once a month according to the ARIC cycles. Yeah. Make sure that you have updated nav data.
Awesome. So congratulations again on the release of your Navigraph Charts. What's the feedback been so far just from users, not necessarily just here, but from users as a whole?
We take great pride in being in close contact with the community. So first of all, we issued this survey in the end of last year, as we normally do. And here we get a lot of feature requests, and we have incorporated those. And then we send out the software for beta testing. We had some 5,000 beta testers going over our products. We started slow, inviting the first 50, making sure that we iron out the first kinks, and then we invited another 50. And then as the issues became fewer and fewer, we can invite more and more people. So in the end, for our Android product and for our browser product and for our Mac and Windows desktop product, we've had all in all 5,000 testers. Now, there's some people out there that are a little bit curious when the iPad version will be released. It's underway. There's been some development issues here that we need to account for, but it's not very many weeks left until we can release also that one. And in the meanwhile, I'm encouraging those people to use maybe Safari or a Chrome browser on their iPad, because they're feature complete, both of them, and they run just as fast, both of them, and there's comparable latency. So I think people will be happy with that as well.
So how many people did you have in total apply for this beta program compared to how many people you were able to invite?
In the end, we ended up inviting all of them, I believe. Yeah, we had a system, Tim at the office, because he's not here right now, but he's our support guy who has most of the dealings with beta testers, was responsible for inviting them in waves, and those waves were ordered by Steven, who's the lead developer on Charts. So it's a little bit like when you're, you can't inundate them with too many beta testers at the same time, because then you get too many issues filed. So you want to iron out the first kinks, and then you get ready for the next batch. So in the beginning, the invites were maybe sent out at 50 at a time. Yeah. But in the end, I believe that all of the ones that applied for the beta program were indeed invited.
That's impressive. And that's impressive that you were able to really accommodate the people who wanted to get in. Yeah.
We can do this because we're using a software called Test Fairy, for instance. So we can handle a lot of beta testers on a bigger scale, because you can see certain metrics about, for instance, how many times does a particular Android version crash. So you don't have to look at the specifics of that particular beta tester, but you could if you wanted to, because all of the sessions are recorded. Now in the production version of those apps, all of that, shall we call it bugging or looking over the shoulder, is removed, of course. But for the beta testers, we did follow all of the sessions. Yeah.
So what would you say is your favorite overall feature of the new Charts app?
Well, I would say that the procedure overview is pretty neat. I'm a simple man. It just looks good. It looks like a metro map or a subway map, if you will. So it's quite colorful, but it shows you very clearly, if you're approaching from the east, then yeah, you got these stars connecting to these transition points coming from the east, so it would make sense to select these procedures. And it's a huge difference looking at this overview as opposed to flipping through that long list of stars. So I would say that this feature is probably the best. Now, having said that, there's also a route calculator in there, which doesn't get enough love, because the calculation that goes on the background here is pretty amazing. We have a Russian mathematician in the office. His name is Vasily, and he was the one that modeled this as a graph problem. And it does take some time to find the optimal way from A to B. So there's a little bit of caching that goes on in the background. So from a technical point of view, it is quite an interesting solution that he's built. But visually, not as appealing as the procedure overview.
You should make each segment a different color, and then it'll be all visually appealing.
Like for a nice Christmas tree, yeah.
Yeah. So what would you tell somebody who's currently maybe like using Ablesoft CFB? Like, what would you say to convince them that they should be using Navigraph Charts instead of those kind of EFB solutions?
This is an interesting question, and the answer here is quite important. So imagine this. Imagine that you're flying and you have the moving maps feature enabled. And then you see this little purple airplane icon moving across the chart. You will get a lot of contextual information here, because as that airplane icon is moving next to minimus, for instance, or next to remarks regarding noise abatement or anything else that is not explicitly mentioned in the nav data, the charts are so much better for getting this information. So if you render something based off of nav data only, sure, you'll get the hard facts, but there's much more to reality, and that can only be depicted through charts. So the strength of Navigraph Charts here is that we're using the combination of charts in addition to nav data. And here's where I could plug the Navigraph Ultimate subscription, because then you would get both at the same time.
So what overall was the motivation, besides of course, that it's really cool, that you guys decided to make the new Charts app? What was the defining moment, if you will, that convinced you wanted to do this?
Well, we got a number of feature requests that we couldn't serve, so that's why we switched over to Jeppesen. First of all, because we got the night mode there, so the low contrast charts format. And then people were asking for moving maps, and Jeppesen were providing us with georeferenced maps, so this was also something that we could incorporate here. Now, moving from our previous data provider to our current data provider, we unfortunately lost this overview of procedures, because in Jeppesen there's one map for each procedure, whereas in other providers they might have a chart where you got all the procedures in one. But now with the procedure overview, we were able to overcome that as well. So these were some of the features that we incorporated now from the 6th version until the 7th version, and they're defined a little bit about who's our data provider and what are the different features that are offered by that data provider.
So moving a little bit away from the kind of products you guys make, you conducted one of the largest surveys ever in recent history for flight simulation in terms of getting, hard user data. How do you think that went? And were you surprised particularly by any of the results where you thought, oh, they'd vote one way, but really they voted the other?
In general, I was surprised by the participation because we had 2 previous surveys like this. One that I think got 2,000 participants and the other one got 3,000 participants. Now when we teamed up with a lot of the partners in our surrounding, I'm talking about add-on developers, I'm talking about media outlets, I'm talking about anyone that is present in the simulator community. When we were using them to distribute the link to the survey, we got 15,000 participants. All right, now the data is starting to become significant. There was a discussion there about biases, sample biasing, and here I want to stress that for next year, we want to include as many partners as possible and as diverse partners as possible. I want, for instance, general aviation to be much more represented here because our typical customer is more of an airline pilot, but we want general aviation in order to get a representative sample from the entire simulator community. Okay, so there was some discussion. This was kind of cute though. People feel very strongly for the simulator platform that they have chosen. It could be because for technical reasons, it could be because they just invested a lot of money in one particular platform and they couldn't see for the life of them to change to another because it would be too expensive. You know, there are biases here also. But the results were pretty much that prepared and explained they were neck and neck. But in the questionnaire, we enabled the possibility to fill in if you fly most of the time or infrequently and everywhere in between. So I think in absolute numbers, maybe X-Plane was like this much more than prepared, but then again, prepared had more loyal pilots. So now it's starting to become, a little bit of a theoretical discussion. So these two, X-Plane 11 and prepared, they're still neck and neck, I would say, in this year's survey. Then it's going to be interesting to see what happens in the next year's survey.
Yeah, always getting repeating data to see the trends will definitely be amazing, and it's great that you guys are providing that community service for us. So is there anything else you'd want to kind of add that we didn't touch base on today?
Yeah, I would like to thank Phil and Evan for organizing an event like this. I think it's really, really important that we rally all the resources that are present in the flight simulator community in order to grow the community. We want more pilots. Why do we want more pilots? Because we want more friends. Yes, and we also want more people to engage in this community because we get a lot of developer resources from this, we get a lot of potential customers out of this. Just by being more people makes this a better place to be in. So that's why we like to attend this event. This is why we are happy to see how Orbex is graciously sponsoring some of the social events around here. And I think that the bigger developers here, the bigger companies should look at ways to expand the community. Our way of doing it is to provide the survey because we think that there should be data to support decisions on how to develop the community further. So yeah, I guess that could be my final word.
Awesome, so thank you very much for sitting down and talking to us today. For those of you at home, go ahead and check out Navigraph. They make awesome chart solutions and FMS data solutions. For those here at the Expo, their booth looks fantastic. It's over by the Meta Simulations booth across from the FS Elite Lounge area. So go ahead and take a peek over there. I'm sure they'll be happy to have you guys. Thank you very much for sitting down with us today, and I hope to see you again soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.